closing arguments are expected to begin any moment in the manslaughter trial of Tulsa officer Betty Shelby. The judge already warned the jury to plan on a long day. Shelby faces up to life in prison for shooting and killing unarmed motorist Terence Crutcher. This was last September. She testified that she feared for her life when Crutcher reached into his broken down SUV that was stopped in the middle of the road. Shelby says it was the first time she'd ever fired her service weapon. I want to bring in now Sara Azari, defense attorney here. Sara, so thanks again for being with us. You heard Nick, and we're kind of, good morning. We're going over some of the keys here. What's your key? As you think, in that jury room, what's going to be the issue that could decide this?
First of all, there's always a first time to commit a crime, so that's not a defense that this officer has never shot in a line of duty. But, you know, one of the interesting things is that there's this issue of whether the window was down or up. But let's go with her testimony and her statements that have been consistently that the window was down and that the threat was that he reached inside the car. Well, by her own testimony and her statements, apparently she approached the car before her first contact with Crutcher and also peeked into the car with the window down. And so the issue then becomes if there were any weapons in that car that would have been reachable by Crutcher, then she would have seen those weapons, you know. And so I find her testimony a little disingenuous in that respect. The PCP bit of evidence is very interesting to me because when she made a statement and when she divulged her version of the story, she never once mentioned that there was PCP, that he was under the influence of PCP. This all came out after the coroner's report was released, that it was in his system and that there was evidence in the car when the car was searched. But I find it really odd that an officer is driving by and just by looking at someone, she knows not only they're under the influence, what class of drugs they may have used, and that it's PCP. I mean, this must be like some kind of police superpower, in my opinion, that she knew what kind of drug was at issue. So again, I find both of those aspects of her story disingenuous. I don't think there was a threat. Ultimately, this jury's going to have to decide whether this is voluntary manslaughter, and that means a human being was killed, that it was not premeditated, which clearly it wasn't, but then the issue is going to be whether this perceived threat by her was really reasonable. Was there a perceived threat, or was this guy shot and killed because he's a big black bad dude in a predominantly a black community?
Yeah, I mean, that is what she said. She felt threatened. Will a jury believe that? And her side, you poke some holes in her defense. We'll keep monitoring those closing arguments. Thanks again, Sara.
Sure.
Appreciate it.